Well, welcome to all those who've joined today. We're really looking forward to running this session on engaging people with the sea, creative and innovative pathways to marine citizenship. We've got a fantastic panel, and we're really excited to share some of the interesting thinking and the sort of different range of perspectives from around the world around this topic. So just to give you a bit of a background as to why we felt this topic was an important one to be situated within this virtual ocean pavilion. So we know that the sea as a space is an important place to be working within, and that governance is really key. But increasingly, we also know the role of behaviour change, of engagement, and of also that connectedness, and how we think about innovation or change within the way we engage with the sea. And so what we want to do today was think about some of those innovative and also creative ways in which we might create pathways to marine citizenship and to better governance models for the ocean. So we've brought together today a set of different perspectives from across the world, and also from different organisations with different backgrounds, to bring in some of those perspectives. And we're really looking forward to hearing from them today. So I'll just briefly introduce our panel, and then they'll go on to introduce themselves. So we have Stu Hicks from the Ocean Conservation Trust, Patricia Pugh from Oceanogamy, Cristian Pedroso Rosado from Bauhaus of the Seas or Tidal Arts and University of Lisbon, Alan Smith from Nature Wave, Chiara Sitoma, who's going to be speaking here about the Part Art for Ocean World project. We have Taki Shaheen and Rosanna Vitelio, who are speaking here about Digital Museum of Coastal Futures. We have Elaine Hayes from the Plymouth Sound National Marine Park. Valentina Munoz-Kortman, who's from the Early Career Ocean Professionals with the Chile branch. Anna Harris from Plymouth Culture from the Sea for Yourself project. Loretta Kwok from the Rockpool project. And Kizzy Beaumont, who's here from the University of Plymouth. So we're really looking forward to welcoming them today, and they'll do a brief introduction in a moment. In terms of the timing for this session, we've set aside, although we have an hour and a half slot, we're going to run this session for an hour, and then we might have time at the end for any sort of more informal discussions, but the session itself will run for the hour. So what we're going to talk about is how can we engage people with the sea in terms of a pathway to fostering marine citizenship and that broader piece of governance. We're going to bring this range of different organisations and projects, particularly those who've developed innovative and creative methods. So I think one of the reasons why we've convened this amazing set of panellists is because they bring amazing expertise and actual practical experience of having delivered this within their own organisations or within their own places or context. So we're going to really look at also sharing best practice around the creative and innovative, and also looking at digital as a pathway to marine citizenship. In a broader sense, we'll think about how this works, how it makes an impact, and the role of stakeholders, the role of co-design or collaboration within that. And I think the broader piece is to see how some of these approaches that we're going to speak about might create that, like I said, that pathway to marine citizenship. So just again to outline, we've got a brief introduction by myself. I'm Catherine Willis from the University of Plymouth. And then we're going to have a chance for each panellist to briefly introduce themselves. And then we have a 25 minutes for moderated panel discussion. And then we've got the opportunity for Q&A. So as you know, this is part of the Virtual Ocean Pavilion. This is running all the last 2 weeks in parallel with COP. Obviously, it's good news that we can participate in COP without physically travelling there, but I think we are metaphorically there in our presence, and we really want to contribute to this Virtual Ocean Pavilion. So do also please look at some of the other activities. There's 2 more days of the pavilion, and there's some amazing other events happening. So if you do want to go to some of the other events, they're there. And otherwise, to participate in the discussion, please do post your questions in the Zoom chat. While you can do that throughout the talk. It's great if you do it as we go along, because that way we get a chance to see your questions and collate them before we have the chance to go to Q&A at the end. So I'm going to stop sharing and now have the opportunity to hand over. Hopefully the stop sharing has worked. I'm now going to briefly hand over to each of our panellists to introduce themselves before we go to the panel discussion. So I think Stu Hicks from OCT, I think we're going to start with yourself. I shall hand over to you.
Fabulous. Thank you very much. And what an honor to what an honor to go first in this list of amazing people. So my name's Stu. I work for the Ocean Conservation Trust, which is a charity in Plymouth in southern England. We are based at the National Marine Aquarium, which in itself was set up by the Marine Biological Association here in England some almost 30 years ago. These days, we welcome a lot of visitors to our aquarium base, but we're also really proud of our charitable operations. So the Ocean Conservation Trust is the name of the charity, and we work principally with connecting people, everyone, to the ocean. So one of the things that we're most proud about is that we're not an issues-based conservation charity as such. We're all about behavior change, and we understand that we are trying to connect people to the ocean in order to alleviate some of those symptoms that other organizations are addressing directly. So we are working collaboratively as we can with everyone around. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. I think we'll hand over to Alan now. Yeah.
Thanks, Catherine. Wasn't sure if that was going to happen. Thanks, Stu, and thanks, Catherine, and everybody. It's really a huge honour to be part of this incredible panel and roundtable discussion. My name is Alan Smith. I'm the founder of Nature Wave, and we exist to try and create a wave of people better connected to nature right around the planet. That involves working heavily with schools in multiple countries, trying to encourage them to take part in BioBlitz community challenges or games, taking a lot of the ideas which were born with our great friends, the Rockpool Project, who are around the table as well. Hi, Loretta. And that sort of evolved from where I'm, in fact, I'm from Plymouth, like many people here, but I'm now in Dubai as a school teacher. And we've worked with schools in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, where nature connection is as much of an issue as many other countries around the world. We've worked with schools in Borneo. We've worked with professional sports franchises, where some of the world's most famous cricket players have bio-blitzed with local school children. And now, particularly in terms of the ocean focus, we've got a partnership with the Mangrove Reserve here, and we're doing some really creative projects where students can arrive and do a mini marketing filmmaking competition or an escape room challenge across the boardwalk. And, you know, being a STEAM teacher, the A in STEAM is for arts. And that's what this is all about. Those creative ideas are absolutely the way to connect people to nature, make them notice, enjoy, and love it, and ultimately look after it.
Thank you. Patricia?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here with these panelists talking about marine citizenship. So for me, this topic is very relevant as I'm Patricia Puig. I'm the founder of Oceanogamy, which is a marine environmental consultancy company. And I have a marine science background. And when I founded the company, actually it was after my last experience working in Galapagos, where I was actually living with marine life, no? And I was feeling so connected to the marine life and the people also, no? And the people even were collecting plastics by the beach, you know, doing a lot of activities connected to conservation of the sea. And then I come back at the time to Barcelona, the city where I grew up, and I saw that they were still living a bit with looking with the back of the sea, so not really looking at the sea. And also talking with scientists, they say that there was still missing this connection between the citizens, the research that they are doing. And also I saw the lack of connection between companies and people working in companies and the conservation of the sea. So this is why I founded Oceanogamy, and we now work in Europe and also globally. Particularly, we engage citizens for marine conservation, doing activities by the sea, so really seeing the impact that we are causing and what solutions we can do, no? Doing activities like collecting plastics, doing snorkeling, sustainable sailing, contributing, doing scientist projects, and also restoration projects. And also we work with the companies, so we work with the employees doing CSR activities for this purpose. So I'm happy to talk more about this topic today. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Patricia. And now over to Cristiano.
Hi, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you all for the invitation. I'm here representing this dual role for the projects Bauhaus of the Sea Cells and the Tidal Hearts, which have this connection with the ocean. So, throughout this new European Bauhaus idea that we have to have interdisciplinary projects that are intercultural, interspecies, intergenerational, but through a probably new design movement that can bridge the gap between experts, the wider, the non-experts, but also the local communities and the local authorities. So, in these two projects, we develop participatory approaches that have the creativity and the aesthetics as a core value, but not only as a beautiful on top that we put on projects, but as a value to foster new relationships connected with the cultural heritage of sites like the Venice Lagoon, the Azores Island, the Turku archipelago in Finland, the Orsund Strait in Malmo. So how do these local communities connect these days, which we are pretty much digitally walking to, with their water bodies? What questions come in mind, and how can we develop artistic enhanced projects that raise the awareness of the local communities, but also can inform future projects and future policy making? So it is quite a very interesting field in here, where us as researchers take a step back and act more like facilitators of these participatory processes, and not that much as experts. But I'm pretty much sure you will have a lot of questions to ask, and I'm here to reply to them. Thank you.
Thanks, Cristiano. We'll hand over to Chiara now.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for inviting us to join this meeting. My name is Chiara Certoman, and I work at the University Sapienza in Rome, in Italy, and I'm the project leader of Part Art for Ocean and Weather. My research team in Sapienza is called COSI, and I basically run a collaboratorium for investigating socio-environmental emergencies at the sea, especially environmental conflicts, with the tools of marine social geography and techniques of visual geography, so basically filming and photography. And as a project leader of Part Art for Ocean and Water, I'm running this 2.5 years project, European project funded under Mission Ocean, which is intended to fund sub-projects whose aim is bringing together local communities around issues affecting the marine and internal waters. So basically, we are funding sub-projects that adopt participatory art and participatory creativity as a mean for reconnecting, for tightening the relationship between society and the ocean or the internal waters. Thank you.
Thank you, Chiara. Hand over to Valentina now.
Thank you, Catherine. Hi, everyone. I'm really glad to be here. I am Valentina Muñoz-Cortman, a social psychologist specialized in environmental management and public policy, and currently studying a master's in marine conservation at the University of Plymouth. And now I am representing the Chilean node of early career ocean professionals. which is supported by the United Oceans TICAD. It's a global program. So we began building this node in February of this year, and it has been a very enriching journey for all of us, especially for our coordination team, which is composed of both social and marine scientists. And we started this node with a strong passion, given that Chile has an extensive coastline with many marine ecosystems of national and global high relevance. So we decided to encourage the collaboration between young people to create the next generation of ocean leaders and decision makers in Chile. And we are doing that through the co-creation of projects, the capacity building and the development of their skills and potential. So this is why we bring together people from different backgrounds, marine biology, oceanography, communications, law, psychology, arts, among others, because we want to connect their knowledge and creativity with projects they can carry out with people from our own country or people from the regional network and international network of this program. So we have 3 areas of action, which are communication and outreach, training, policy analysis and advocacy, and ocean culture.
Fantastic. Thank you, Valentina. Hannah, I'll hand over to you.
Hi, thank you so much for having us as part of this. So I'm Hannah, I'm the Chief Exec of Plymouth Culture. We're a sector development organisation in the city of Plymouth, and we have a responsibility to grow and shape the strategic development of arts and culture across the city. And we are leading on a project called See for Yourself, which is a programme of work within the wider National Marine Park activity in the city. And it's a 4-year programme of creative digital interventions across the city, which are designed to help reconnect citizens to the ocean. And many of you have already shared some of those challenges around communities turning their back to the ocean, it not becoming part of the day-to-day life as it once was. But also we're really interested in how digital is used as part of that interaction and part of enhancing marine citizenship. So it's a sort of exploration over 4 years of what we use digitally, how we use it, and how that enhances engagement with the ocean for our citizens. And we'll speak more about that in a moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. And that leads nicely into Elaine from National Marine.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Hello, everyone. What an exciting time to be working in the ocean space. So many exciting projects going on. It's lovely to be here. My role is Chief Executive of Plymouth Sound National Marine Park, and we are fundamentally a grassroots movement for change. We're looking at how we can develop different models and interventions that will change the outcomes for people and planet, recognizing that we're really struggling in terms of our wildlife, and also that people are increasingly disconnected from their greener and blue spaces. And it's vitally important that we can enable and support people from all communities and all parts of society to actively participate in their marine environment and have their say and be part of our community. We're doing this using some work that was developed at the University of Plymouth, which is a marine citizenship route. That doesn't mean there's a particular way that you become a marine citizen. It's about immersing people in all the potential opportunities. And Hannah's just spoken about some of the really exciting ones under our digital programme, but we also have programmes around active engagement, nature, people and heritage. So really excited to be here and thank you.
Thank you. And I'll pass over to Kizzy.
Hi, thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Elaine, and everyone who's spoken so far. So I'm Kizzy Beaumont. I'm from the University of Plymouth in the UK, and I'm speaking on behalf of our digital marine citizenship project that I'm working with Catherine, who's chairing the session today, alongside Plymouth Culture, so you've already heard from Hannah, and then the National Marine Park as well, and you've just heard from Elaine. And this is just a very short 6-month project funded by the Arts Humanities Research Council. It's an IAA program, and we're using Plymouth and the National Marine Park as an initial space to understand how digital and creative approaches can strengthen people's connection to the sea. And through a series of co-design workshops with local cultural and marine and community organisations, including many that have spoken here today already, including Stu from the OCT and Loretta, who's going to speak in a sec from the Rockpool project. And we're gathering these practical insights into what digital marine citizenship looks like in practice. And so one of our main outputs is a design guide or a toolkit, which will be for practitioners, creative and community partners, and it will offer these design principles and examples of effective digital approaches and case studies from Plymouth, as well as other coastal settings in the UK and internationally. So thank you, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of the discussion.
Thanks, Kizzy. And Loretta?
Hello everyone, lovely to be here today. Thanks for having us. So I'm from the Rockpool project. I'm the Southwest lead of the Big Rockpool Challenge, which is our pilot project to invite people across the UK to be citizen scientists, starting with a very simple act, as shown at our organisation name, which is through rockpooling. It's a fun way to foster local communities that hopefully we can help them to connect better with the coastal environment. And the heart of this project, other than engaging volunteers to lead the monthly Bar Blitz battle, is how we incorporate technology into this whole Rockpool Bar Blitz battle. So we created an app which is linked to iNaturalist app, which we use both of them to be the tool to help collect data, to generate data that's basically available to everyone, for scientists or just interested party who is interested in looking at data or the trend in our wildlife. So by doing this 90 minutes Bar Blitz battle, we try to engage more people in a fun way. We gamify the whole experience so we can engage them and also collect data to help research and scientists at the same time. So lovely to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Taki and Rosanna, I think we'll have to maybe have just one of you speaking, but I'm sure you'll speak for the more.
Oh, Taki, go for it. You're muted.
I'll just take 10 seconds and then the rest can be over to Rosanna. I'm based in Karachi, Pakistan. That's where I'm joining from. So I'm co-founder of Museum of Coastal Futures, which is a digital museum in collaboration with Rosanna, who's based in UK. So basically, just in a nutshell, the museum is about creating interface between coastal communities from one part of the world with other parts of the world. And that the drive is that since we feel that there is no interface that exists which connects these communities and also maritime museums, so we'll be talking more about it in detail. Over to Rosanna.
Thanks, Taki. I'll keep this brief. Thank you guys for inviting us here today. Really, our work is focused on how you can take all the fantastic narrative design work that you find inside a museum and crack it open, take it outside, to really look at how coastlines are meaningful to people all over the world. And as Taki said, we find that we have more in common with coastal dwellers, elsewhere in the world than we might do with people inland. How can we find better platforms to connect them? And how can the power of the metaverse or digital tools help to do so? So fantastic. Thanks for the.
Well, thank you, everybody. And we're so pleased to have such an amazing set of speakers and experience on the panel today. So I'm going to move on to our first question now, which I'm going to address. I think first I'm going to come back to Stu Higgs from the Ocean Conservation Trust for this one. So we've had lots of examples here from how we might do creative or innovative ways to foster connections with the sea and marine citizenship. But what do you think? What's the challenge or the impact we want to see? Why do you think this is necessary, Stu?
Fab, thanks for giving me the chance to open on this one. I think we're living in an age today where so many people all around the world are not connected or are not aware of their connection to the ocean. So it's almost an inarguable truth that everyone is in some way, shape or form connected to the ocean. And as some people have touched on, those of us that are based by the coast are perhaps slightly more aware of that, but there's journey, there's mileage for everyone to make towards better understanding their relationship with the ocean, how it impacts us and how we impact it. And I think that oftentimes people just we all need a little bit of help just discovering those ways and finding out what our personal connections are. I think if we can succeed in this journey, if we can connect enough people to the ocean, if we can establish a sense of connection and a marine identity amongst our respective audiences, then we should start seeing a lot more what we would call pro-ocean behavior, outcomes that are positive for the ocean and the planet by everyone, no matter where we live.
Thank you, Stu. And I suppose perhaps over to Patricia here, because you work a lot with a sort of people working in companies and organizations. I wonder how you see that from your perspective.
Thank you, Catherine, for this question. So actually, we work with companies that they don't have almost anything to do with the sea. So different kind of companies that theory they're not causing any direct impact now, but of course, everyone is causing impact to the ocean. No? But we find more and more interest from the employees and the people in general, no, to get to know more about the sea and have this connection that Stu was saying that it's missing. We don't recall it, but we have it, no. But we have to just remember and go with that connection. So the activities that we do are in the sea, so this is the best way to really see the impact that we are causing, for example, doing marine debris, collecting marine plastics, and then talking with the people and see, where this comes from, what we can do to make change. Seeing the marine biodiversity, even in Barcelona, which is a busy city, it's amazing, and I realized that many local people never did a snorkeling there. So doing this connection to the sea, so we really know where do we come from actually, and why we have to care about the ocean, because if we protect the ocean, also we protect ourselves and also all the beauty that is in the ocean. So I think a lot of these hands-on experience activities are very necessary, and also doing interdisciplinary activities, so mixing creativity. You see here some artists also in the panel. So mixing art and science and marine conservation. So we also do this kind of activities that connect these different worlds and different people, engaging with the fishers, with the different stakeholders that they are on the ocean, and they actually depend on that resources. So getting to know all this, I think is essential, for fostering this connection.
Yeah, sure. And I suppose coming to Plymouth, to the National Marine Park, I mean, I know that's been what's the big picture in terms of how you see the Marine Park making a change in the way that people engage with the sea? That this is for Elaine.
Thanks, Catherine. I think there are two really important areas of focus for us. And one is to give the voice to people who don't have a voice currently. So really important for our communities to understand how they can engage, because many people feel that they're not part of that they're not connected to it. So it's looking at what the pathways are. And as other speakers have said, about using lots of different ways to do that, because not everybody wants to jump into the cold sea around the coastline of England on a regular basis. So I think that for us is one really important part of it. And the other for me is around enabling people to make their own way. So rather than assuming that everybody has to learn about one particular aspect of the sea, maybe just sitting by the sea is the thing that makes the connection for them, and for them not to feel that there's anything wrong with that it should be their own way of connecting and engaging, and we shouldn't assume that we know better because we're scientists.
Brilliant. Thank you, Elaine. I'm going to move on now to thinking about some of the best practice. We heard in each person's introduction, we heard lots of really interesting examples of what might be the best practice, but I'm going to pass over to a series of you now and just maybe a short little idea of some of the best practice that either you've been working on yourselves or you've seen. Chiara, I was going to come to you first with a part art for Ocean World to talk about perhaps anything you're doing within the projects you're working on.
Yes, thank you. Yes, we are experimenting a number of alternative practices to re-engage people with ocean and water. And in the first call we issued some 7 months ago, and is now already we have the results, and we have participatory art initiatives that started working in local context. We have seen a huge diversity in terms of creativity that people can express in understanding their relationship with the fluid environment. So, for instance, we have an interesting project run in Luleå in Sweden, which is about the massive impact of dredging in harbor areas, and engage people, especially diverse and young people, in documenting the impact of this widespread practice on the ocean ecosystems, and exposing the effect of submarine practices is something which is already very impactful, already have an effect on wide community, especially on people who have no possibility to access the sea. And we have different kind of initiative, for instance, in Bodø in Norway, where the acoustic pollution, so the noise pollution in the water, is the object of a new museum, which is going to be created for making humans able to appreciate what does it mean for sea animals to live in a polluted environment from the perspective of noise. So it is completely new conception of a museum, of what a museum should be, and brings people into the water without actually doing it. Feeling like a marine animal, what they feel. Or again, we have another interesting practice, just to mention a few of the large number that we come across, which is in Scotland, and is intended to create a garden in a tidal environment, a public garden like urban gardens, for instance, you may know, and engage the community in protecting and preserving a public area, as many coastal areas are, and engaging with its ecologists by recreating a garden and activities, common activities, people's activities in this garden. And we have a lot of them, so I could go on, but I just wanted to give you a taste of what we went through in our project up to now.
Fantastic. Thank you, Karen. I'm sure we can post in the chat so people can learn more about your project if they'd like to. And Hannah, coming to Plymouth, I know that there's been some interesting projects you've been working on there in terms of Sea for Yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And similarly, we could list a lot of things, but just I think thinking about sort of best practice, I think our approach has been to know that artists do many things really well, but in particular, they are experts in engagement and communication. And so I think when we involve artists and creative practice in what can sometimes feel like very big and overwhelming challenges or topics for people, it provides another route into the conversation, and it gives them an opportunity to engage in ways that mean they don't have to be experts. It's not a right or a wrong, but it creates a platform for dialogue. And so I guess our model is about how you integrate creative practice within wider societal challenges around climate emergency and ocean and nature connectedness. And in particular, we're doing that with digital. So we've really tried to move away from using digital to just broadcast information, tell people what they should be doing or how they should be feeling, and instead think about digital as part of the component of someone's marine citizenship journey. So thinking about the types of digital, whether that's hardware, software, whether that's platforms, whether it's like lo-fi or high tech, and where that sits along the journey, so that we move away from digital as a broadcast tool and instead use it as an enhancement for an experience that brings people closer to the ocean. And so I guess those are the two kind of areas of best practice that we have as our hypothesis and are testing throughout the See for Yourself programme.
Brilliant. Thanks, Hannah. And I suppose that digital, I'm wondering, thinking about Nature Wave, Alan, with the work that you do with children, how different ways to engage, what sort of things are you finding a best practice in the area you're working within?
Yeah, thanks, Catherine, and thanks everybody for sharing all these incredible ideas. They're really inspiring. I think first, before I answer the question, very briefly, I'll just explain a really powerful moment that happened over here, and it's kind of where Nature Wave came from. As a school teacher in a large international school here in Dubai with an incredible diverse student body of 2,000 kids from all around the world, I started off early on, having returned to Dubai, with a lesson about seashells, them from the local beach, brought them in and asked the students to look closely, observe them, notice them, feel them, and talk to each other. What do you notice and what do you know? And after teaching the same lesson 4 times, more than 100 children, not one of them knew that these seashells came from an animal. Now, these are bright children. They've got, a lot of things going for them. They live in a coastal city. They knew that they're seashells. They see them every week. But I feel like this is why this whole roundtable is here. It's people, let alone people who live far away from the coast, people who live on the coast in modern cities, this day and age, are incredibly disconnected. So some of the ways we've learned to really entice people to feel a deeper connection and notice that they're part of nature is using technology rather than fight against it. There's fascinating research from the University of Berkeley about the number of nature-related words in pop songs and movie storylines since the 1950s, and it's plummeted. We need to help our young people as well as our adults. And some of the ways we're doing it are using film and storytelling. So our partnership I mentioned earlier with the local mangrove reserve in Abu Dhabi, instead of children just following a ranger, hearing some scientific facts and perhaps not being interested, or kayaking, we send them a series of filmmaking lessons in advance. So back in school, they'll be learning how to storyboard, how to script write, how to do different camera shots. And it's a competition, it's gamified. So what they need to do when they turn up in their little teams of 3 or 4, they've got to film the best marketing video possible, ready for a showcase event with parents, potentially even corporate sponsors, which helps everything spread the message further. And so they're taking ownership of their local marine wildlife. We do something very similar with a more simple version for younger students, where they have to create their own wildlife bingo game, just taking wildlife photos of mangrove species. And again, we try and make it fun and slightly competitive in a friendly way. And the best ones will be sold by the park office and actually used by other students and adults. So again, they're the stewards, they're the people connecting adults to nature, not the other way around.
Fantastic, thanks, Alan. I think that leads nicely to the work of the Rockpool Project, who also use BioBlitz and citizen science. So Loretta, do you want to speak a little bit about best practice that you guys have been developing?
Yeah, thank you, Catherine. Yeah, I think it flows very nicely into what we do. And I really agree with what Alan said about, we should utilize technology instead of fighting it, because there is almost no point of fighting it these days. Everybody's on their phone, everybody's, using technology. And because of that, we created the app to kind of go along with our monthly BioBlitz. So we gamify, like what Alan said, we gamify our experience. So when people go out, each species or each observation that they make, we assign a rarity score to the species, so according to the data we collected in the UK, and then we rank them. So at the end of it, after the 90 minutes, we'll get a leak. So we will see who got the highest score out of that 90 minutes battle. So it just adds a little bit of fun and competition and that sort of element to the whole experience. And then we have been seeing some participants just keep coming back, just because they want to beat another team, or they want to get better, or they want to, you know, learn more about a certain species. And it's really fun. And we just keep saying it's, you know, like what some of you said before, some people just feel like they can't get involved because they don't have the knowledge, or they don't live close to the shore or whatnot. But this whole experience, the app, hopefully also with iNaturalist app, they have the AI function that suggests the species name. So they literally just need to take a picture of what they found, and then the app can help them identify a certain species. And obviously we make good use of the wider iNaturalist community online, so they do the verification. So the things that we collected, hopefully it's also helpful to the research and science community as well. But yeah, hopefully in the near future we can add more fun elements to it. I was mentioning it to some people earlier, like hopefully we can do something kind of like Duolingo, like now almost everybody's on Duolingo and collecting their badges, or like Pokemon Go, maybe that can contribute to like a particular research project. If some scientists are looking for a specific type of data that they need to collect, maybe that's something we can do, incorporate in our app or our experience as well.
Thank you, Loretta. It's great to hear about that. And I'm just going to go over to Cristiano now with the Bauhaus of the Seas sales and tidal arts. I know that you've done some arts-based approaches as well. So I'm just, any best practice you feel you can share?
Yes, so the basis for these two projects is to go beyond the human exceptionalism and to decenter the decision-making processes from the usual players, and to increase the representation of the marginalized communities, but also the more than humans. And so this is quite unusual in these multi-level engagement processes. So what does the Flamingo say about a project on this Bay Area? And we are not used to ask this. Or what does a whale think if the Port Authority do another project with a new road for censoring the sea at high? Well, we don't know. So we are implementing what we call an interspecies assembly, which is a data curated approach to collect all the relevant players or actors in a particular ecosystem, and including them in an AI-based model to represent and to speak on behalf of the more than humans, and to bring these tools to a participatory table, which is already interdisciplinary, intergenerational, and intercultural by nature. We had the interspecies value to this participatory take, and you can guess the confusion that this brings to the local authorities, to the city halls, to the architects, even to the biologists on the table, because we are so used to entering in these projects as the experts, as the human exceptions. And so our goal as researchers is to go beyond the human exceptionalism and add concepts like dialectics, hydrocommons, post-humanism, and to develop design tools that can be as low or medium or high technological as you can think of, to mediate and to cross all these barriers that are ongoing in these projects towards the ocean.
Thank you, Christian. Fascinating to think about the perspective from the perspective of the non-human world, and how that gives a different insight. I'm just going back to the sort of bigger picture here. I know with the Digital Museum of Coastal Futures, you've talked about how not only connecting the non-human, but also connecting up different coastal communities across the world and how the digital might enable that to do that. So I don't know, Rosanna and Taki, if you'd like to just speak about some of the best practice you've been working on with that project.
Oh, Taki, you're muted. Sorry.
Yeah.
There you go.
So yeah. So I think, thank you, Catherine. This is the most fundamental question, that what does these digital technologies hold for the future? But also what is more important, that what is at stake for these coastal communities? So since what we do is we develop analog and digital games to actually make sure that people who are not familiar with these communities, so these communities themselves produce those games, initiate those scenarios, so that one can actually understand what they're going through and what kind of strategies they have been using so far. And with regards to connection, when we say we are making connection, that means that there is a disconnect. But since when we have had this disconnect? So previously, if you look at the coastal community of Karachi, and in the past, there was a very healthy exchange of connection between sailors from Southampton to Karachi and elsewhere around the globe. That was not just a connection of trading, that was knowledge connection, that was nature connection, that was human connection, that was a survival connection. So they were sharing all those strategies that were there in place, and they could actually equip themselves with those tools that would be used in any kind of calamity scenarios. But we see that during colonialism and post-colonialism, there was a major disconnect. And ever since with the arrival of digital, we seem to assume that we have sort of nailed it. But as you would see, when we had much less data, we were data poor, we were meaning rich, we could extract more from that data. But the question is, now we are data rich, but meaning poor. So what kind of meaning and what kind of value we can extract from this data, especially when we know that there's certain hierarchies that exist, that the decision makers in marine institutions, they have a completely different sense of coastal community. Coastal communities, they have a completely different sense of how they want their futures to be, what kind of problems they want to address, and they have been addressing. But we understood after making some environmental strategy games that these coastal communities are far more informed and equipped than we actually imagined them to be. And what if we create a knowledge pool from different coastal communities to address these questions and also connect them with museum spaces, which apparently they're creating spectacles at this point, but how about something more meaningful that is interconnected, survival-based, and also they can imagine new futures which can't be imagined in boardrooms. This is only going to be the coastal community which would define how the future works for them and what future holds for them. So hence the Museum of Coastal Futures. So more, Rosanna would explain more about it. Thank you.
I think one of the really important points here is the immersive quality of the coastline and of the sea. So we do a lot of work in an analog way as well around futures. We have a toolkit that we've used that we're using with Taki, the collaborative place futures. And when we do so with coastal communities, we find that after a very short period of time, because we're talking about wind, yeah, that's right. But actually, some of your work is in there too, University of Plymouth guys. We found it. So we're talking about wind, we're talking about sound, as you've mentioned, we're talking about the sky, the seascapes. These enable people to live and kind of inhabit that future in a much more meaningful way, as you said, Taki, than being in a boardroom. So I think there's a real opportunity here for anybody working along the coastline to think about that immersive quality and the emotional quality that adds meaning to the place, both on the coastline, but also the work that Taki, you're doing right now in Karachi is taking a metaverse approach, which is basically helping people to immerse themselves through the power of digital to feel that future. So I think there's a really important element there. And I think as Taki has highlighted, just a quick summary is the idea of looking at coastal pasts to understand traditions, former links, coastal presence to look at present day challenges, and then coastal futures, that sense of storytelling, Hannah, as you said, the art, that's where the art comes in to help us craft those futures and share and combine knowledge is really what we're looking to do. And we are seeking more UK partners. So we'd love to find a way to connect Taki's work back to the UK as well.
Thank you. I was going to come over to Valentina now, because you represent the early career ocean professionals. So you're representing perhaps the future of people who are working in the ocean professions, and how you might see some of these connections happening both across global boundaries, but also at the sea. Just briefly, perhaps, so then we might have time to move to questions.
Well, for our organization, the most important work, best practice and process is, first of all, the creative engagement of a marine citizenship that starts with recognizing our connection with the ocean, as many people said before. So the first step is to produce emotional engagement with the ocean. Emotions have been often undervalued in the transmission of science to the society, but they can play an enormous role in driving behavioral change. For example, every day we see in a recreational way and even in spiritual ways, people that is enjoying being near the sea, simply being near the sea. So the first step of the power of emotions is essential, and then we need to transform that simple love and enjoyment for the ocean into the awaken of consciousness, into interest in understanding what is happening below the waves, how we are impacting our marine ecosystems, all the services that those ecosystems give us when they are in a healthy state, and also into the understanding of our influence and impacts on the oceans from our daily actions to our broader decisions, like the elections of politicians or the spaces of powers in which we are involved. So I deeply believe that this second step of foster a marine citizenship in a more social and political way is key to make the changes we need with the speed we need. Because of course we need to change as individuals, and we must change as individuals in the sense of we need to go towards more sustainable patterns of consumption and everything. But we also need to change the imbalance of power that are between the destructive industries like some fisheries or pollutant companies and some people who are trying to do good things in the spheres of power. We need more people in those spheres of power to do better regulations, to do better policies, to make a better system of taxes, who are taking care of the environment and at the same time the economic benefits, but always in a sustainable way. So that's why from the Early Career Ocean Program, we are trying to put more young people in those spaces of power, to put more balance between those rich industries and powerful industries and the spheres of power, with more people interested in changing things in a real way, with a real impact after.
Thank you, Valentina. I think it's been so hard to make sure we've got so many interesting and amazing panelists. It's been so hard to make sure we can listen to all the things. But I think what you've left us with there is a really fitting and appropriate point to draw the panel to the close. I want to say thanks ever so much to a panelist. But now we can have a little bit of chance to answer a few of the questions that have come in the chat. Do please, if you have some further questions, do let us know. We had. I think, well, just one thing to highlight to people is we had someone here who's a senior data officer at DASH, at the Marine Biological Association, and they've produced a citizen science best practice interactive guide. I think that's in the chat, so do have a look at that if you're interested in some of the citizen science things that have been discussed today. But the question we had was from Katie Bellman from the Corn Wildlife Trust. And she talked about the fact that we know that behaviour change is important and establishing a meaningful connection, but that there's often not long-term or funding for this to happen that promotes continuous engagement. So I'm wondering, this might come back perhaps to Stu Higgs from the ACT. I don't know how you see, obviously we've got the marine aquarium and that sort of way in which you engage, but perhaps Stu, coming to you, how do you see that sort of long-term piece? How do you see that can be enabled in the way we work currently?
I mean, this is a fascinating one, isn't it? Where our history here at the aquarium has, a lot of our work for the best part of 25 years has been privately funded through aquarium tickets. I think what we're What we're all trying to do, though, is move to a sustainable funding model. The next step up for us as an organization, as a charity, is to secure a bigger pot of money that might give us a budget for a number of years. But really, I think hopefully, as we see society, as we see marine ocean connectivity increasing across society as a whole, then those mechanisms can start coming into place organically or at a government level that will get a more general contribution and recognition of the value of it, so that we can move away from a funder model to a more universal recognition that's filtered by perhaps government or other. I think private funding is not a sustainable long-term solution.
Yeah, maybe briefly to Elaine, because obviously you've got the funding for the Plymouth National Marine Park, which is the first national marine park in the UK. How do you see that part, just briefly, perhaps as part of a longer term, so sort of more sustainable model of continuous engagement?
Yeah, I think what's really important is to recognise that what the sea provides to us is a very wide range of benefits, and that actually the cost to society of people not having a good connection to nature is something that is not well considered. So I think where we need to go is, I think there needs to be a jigsaw of funding. Some of it will be philanthropic, where there may be a high level of risk, but we also need to look at opportunities for making people's health better. And so the costs to the to government and other systems for health will diminish, and that presents an opportunity, for example, for nature to receive a bigger share of the pie. But there are lots of good funding models out there. It's just also finding the right one that fits your organisation best.
Thank you, Elaine. And maybe just briefly to Chiara, because I know you've been working with a series of projects. So how do you, and that perhaps funded through maybe the European Union, for example. So how do you see that as part of the picture, perhaps?
Yes. First of all, I apologize because I'm completely black. This is that I'm not using artificial light here. So, yes, basically we are working with European funds, and this means that also our contributors, so the projects that are run under Part Art for Ocean and Water, are funded by the European Commission through the partners of Part Art. And this is, of course, from the one side, a huge responsibility. From the other side is an opportunity, because the projects are funded, consistently funded, and this means that people, including local association and people who have great ideas but few possibilities, are able to actually contribute. And this is for what concern the Part Art for Ocean and Water project. For what concern other smaller project we have been working with my team in time, we have always worked with public fund. So we up to now we never worked with private funds, and this is something that we decided to do because we want to be entirely free to access the site, the locations, and to work without any constraints determined by the founders. This is not always the case, but it may happen. And when you are investigating potential conflicts related to environmental resources, this is something that may have detrimental impact on your research, on the results and the outcomes of your research.
Brilliant. Okay, well, good to hear those different perspectives. Like I said, I think although we officially have an hour and a half slot for this thing, we've kept this session to an hour, and that means we're going to draw to a close. I'm really grateful to everybody's contribution to the panel. We've had some fascinating different perspectives and global. So yeah, maybe a little bit of a round of applause to everybody for their participation, and obviously to all the audience. we haven't been able to sort of link in with you directly, but obviously really pleased to follow up. And we are going to stay on the call. Some of us are going to stay on the call afterwards if you'd like to have a bit more of an informal conversation, have maybe a bit more of an informal one-to-one with some of the panelists. So, but thank you really to our panelists, and also thank you ever so much to the Virtual Ocean Pavilion organisers, to Katie and to Miriam and Thekla, who've been doing amazing things behind the scenes to make this work. And to be virtual has obviously shown that we can still connect, and has been a way to hopefully share some of that experience about the creative and innovative ways for marine citizenship. So thank you to all the people who've joined us today. Like I said, we're going to stay on informally now to have a more informal conversation if anyone would like to, but we'll close the session for now. And thank you again to our panelists for their contributions.